Before we dive into the blood-soaked madness of this 88 Films Slasher Classic Collection review, a quick heads up for listeners and viewers alike. These episodes come straight from the podcast Under the Stairs archives, recorded before the launch of the YouTube channel and long before video podcasts became part of the show. These reviews were originally crafted purely for audio. So if the production feels a little rougher around the edges or a little more stripped back than current episodes, that's because you're hearing the show in its earlier form, raw, passionate, and let's be honest, a little waffly at times. Whether you're revisiting these reviews or discovering them for the first time, please sit back and relax and enjoy this trip through the golden age of mass killers, inventive gore, and VH era nightmares. This podcast is not safe for work and will feature movie spoilers. It will feature scenes described of a graphic nature. It will contain language which most listeners may find offensive. Welcome to the podcast Under the Stairs. Hi everyone and welcome to the podcast Under the Stairs. This is your Sunday 88 Films Slasher Classic series of reviews. I'm your host Duncan. Welcome to the show. Up on this episode, we're looking at disc number 39 in the Slasher Classic Collection, a little movie called Popcorn. We'll be doing a review of that movie after the first break. Before we get to that, let's recap the week that's been. This is your final episode of the week, which started off looking at some forgotten giallis way back on Monday. On Tuesday, we reviewed and interviewed the director of PG, Psycho Gorman, which is available as of Friday on digital and on demand. So yeah, you can go out and check that out, and I highly recommend that you do. Thursday was your best and worst of 2020, including my top 5 least favourite horror movies of last year. And then yesterday we did a review of the Shudder exclusive Fingers. A ton of fun on that movie as well. Which brings us to here, the natural conclusion of the week. Our little jaunt back into the world of 88 Films Slasher Classic. Now, I know what you're thinking, Duncan, there has been no 88 Films Italian collection. I'm going to assume that maybe you've missed an episode or two, or this is you just tuning in this year to Podcast Under the Stairs. Every Sunday you usually get an episode. We alternate them every 3 weeks. So we do the 88 Films Italian collection, the 88 Films Slasher Classic collection, and at random I select one of my Arrow video titles for the Arrow video assortment, and then they loop. Now we've been doing that for a while, so much so that we've actually ran out of titles in the 88 Films Italian collection. We got as far as disc number 60. There is no disc number 61, however physical copies of 62 and 63 are available. Rather than review out of order, which to be honest would do my OCD no good at all, I've decided to put this series on hiatus until disc number 61 is available. Now 88 Films have announced 2 titles that will be dropping fairly soon, and I will assume one of those will be disc 61. When that happens, we will slot back into the rotation of doing the 88 Films Italian collection. Now, as the Slasher Classic series pertains, this is disc number 39 we're covering just now. Realistically, we have about enough titles to take us up to about May in this collection. At that point, the same thing's going to happen. We're going to put a pin in it until more titles are released, and then we'll probably just do an Arrow video assortment every 2 weeks just to continue on. I will not run out of Arrow video titles. I've got fucking hundreds, so we won't struggle there. But it's just to give you the lowdown on what is happening on that collection. And with that in mind, let's jump into today's one. So I'm going to take a very short break just now. You're going to hear promos for shows that I love. You're going to hear the trailer for Popcorn. When we return, we're discussing that movie right after this.
Hey, feeling down? Feeling low? Not enough podcasts about movies in your life? Why not try?
They must be destroyed. on sight.
The new podcast cure-all, sure to get you right with the world and on a path to better living. We have exploitation, we have Italian horror, we have zombies, we have slashers, we have crime films, we have spaghetti westerns, we even have sci-fi and sex comedies. So take a dose of...
They must be destroyed on sight.
As needed, and let the hosts, Lee Russell, Daniel Harper, Paul Romali, and the odd guest host cure what ails you.
Warning, may cause atrophy, African consumption, black fever, bone shave, chin cough, colic, cramp colic, dropsy of the brain, elephantitis, grocer's itch, jaundice, mania, miasma, mortification, palsy, Pott's disease, rheumatism, scurvy, St. Anthony's fire, summer complaint, and worm fit in some people. Consult a physician before listening.
Before the horror of Halloween. Before the fear of Friday the 13th. Before the evil of A Nightmare on Elm Street. Before them all, there was... Now, 15 years later, he's back.
Oh, yes.
There's something happening here that I've been looking for all of my life. There's smoke. Someone takes her hand. She's running. The same man comes towards her.
I'm in a dream.
I remember the whole thing. Stop!
Are you ready?
Popcorn. Buy a bag. Go home in a box.
And welcome back. So you've just heard the trailer for Popcorn. This is disc number 39 in the 88 Films Slasher Classic Collection. The website says, Canada took the slasher movie to the next level when the country produced the trend-setting Black Christmas in 1974, at the height of what has become known as Canucksploitation. Later shockers from the nation of Moose, Mounties and Maple Syrup included the equally effective My Bloody Valentine from 1981, Happy Birthday to Me from 1981, but by the turn of the 80s the terror trend was drying up, at least until the plasma-spilling shocks of Popcorn in 1991. This Canadian slice-and-dice action par excellence and returns to the good old days of splash blood, high body counts, and a mysterious killer as a young female screenwriter played by the great screen queen Jill Schollnow from The Stepfather and Cutting Glass, struggle with names, suffering nightmares of a strange figure who may well be breaking into the real world. Postmodern and provocative, and featuring a genre ensemble cast that includes Dee Wallace Stone of The Howling and Kelly Jo Minter of The People Under the Stairs, Popcorn has maintained a following of macabre movie fans for decades since its release. The special features on the disc is the Synapse Films supplied 2K scan of the 35mm interpositive vault element, all new Blu-ray 7.1 surround sound mix supervised by Synapse Films, original 2.0 stereo mix also included, an audio commentary with director Mark Herrier, stars Jill Sean, Malcolm Danier, and special makeup effects artist Matt Falls. Midnight Madness, the making of Popcorn, features interviews with the director, stars such as Jill Schollnow, Derek Rydell, Dee Wallace, Malcolm Danier, Ivett Solar, Elliot Hurst, and special makeup effects artist Matt Falls, the composer Paul Zaza, and distributor executive Jonathan Wolfe. Electric Memories, an interview with actor Bruce Glover. An original theatrical trailer, television trailer and TV spots, stills gallery, English subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing. This is Region Unlocked. The picture format is HD 1080p 1781. Audio format is DTS HD MA 7.1 and 2.0. Language is English, subtitles English, certification 15 in the UK, and the runtime is 1 hour and 31 minutes. So this is a movie I'm familiar with quite a bit. The last time I'd watched it though was for the summer series. What will that be, 2 years ago? When we were doing the 90s. Popcorn's a movie that I think is weirdly still finding its audience, which seems strange to say. I mean, it's fairly well known amongst the genre hardcore. Certainly those that are embedded in kind of slasher fandom. It's one of those movies that's is a well-trodden path, but I think if you remove yourself just a little bit from that circle, there's a very good chance that you will have never seen it and possibly never heard of it before. It's a movie that I had seen a couple of times before seeing it for the summer series, and it's always stuck as to me, it's always kind of remained a very fun, for the most part, really well done, kind of later day supernatural slasher movie. And coming back to it, and its print that Synapse did, which by the way is fucking immaculate. The print in this Blu-ray is ridiculous. Easily the best print that 88 Films have released. Granted, it's another company that did it, and Synapse are known for spending time making sure what they do looks legit. It's also packed with special features, just the sort of stuff that we don't always get in this collection. But anyway, seeing it tonight, essentially, for this recording, there's a lot I like about this movie. I like the premise. I love films. We've talked about this before when we talked about Demons, not on this series, but certainly on podcasts Under the Stairs, that I love the idea of movies set within movies. I've always been kind of fascinated by that. Like, if you heard us talk about Matinee, just over a year ago, like I say, Demons, like even to an extent a movie like Stage Fright Aquarius, which actually would pair really fucking well with this, which is less about a movie within a movie, but more a play shot within a movie. There's something about that gets my attention. It's got a surprisingly well written script. It's got surprisingly well portrayed characters. Yes, some of them definitely fall within those cliches and tropes, which weirdly feel like a hangover from the 80s. Very much like a movie like People Under the Stairs, which was mentioned when talking about Kelly Jo Minter. There is that kind of feeling in this movie that, had this come out in 1989, it probably would have felt a bit better, but it's one of those ones where the decade's changed and film companies are still like, well, we've got a couple of things in production, they maybe feel a bit dated, but we'll put them out. It certainly doesn't feel like a 90s movie, or even an early 90s movie at all, when you consider the following year would see like something like Silence of the Lambs come out. This doesn't really make sense or equate on that level. It has really good special effects and practical effects as well. The effects of the killer and the various different states of undress on his face is a lot of fun. The Blu-ray makes it look a bit goofy in parts, a bit rubbery, but I kind of like it. There's that kind of tactile sort of element about the movie and the effects that works. The story is not necessarily all that predictable, even though it does hit the beats of movies that you will have seen before. It occasionally throws in a little curveball, and the finale itself is a ton of fun. Big set piece that really makes me smile. I enjoy the score to this, although it is cheesy as fuck. I mean, we can't get around that. It's an incredibly cheesy score, but it works for the movie as well. Couple of things that maybe are negatives are, like what I said, it feels slightly dated even for 1981. Some of the characters, whilst the dialogue is great, are a bit stereotyped, and that's just par for the course when we're talking about slasher movies. We have our template characters and we need to have them or it doesn't quite work, and that's kind of what you've got here. it's not wholly off-putting, but certainly from my point of view, I'm seeing everything else working on a slightly better level, that it kind of feels like, had we put a bit of extra time maybe elevating some of these characters, giving them a bit more of a backstory, making them a bit more three-dimensional instead of kind of caricatures to an extent, that maybe would bring it forward a bit, maybe elevate it a bit more. It definitely doesn't make me dislike the movie, but it is a negative mark against it for sure. Like I say, I love the effects, but I'm fully aware that some of them have not dated particularly well, and on Blu-ray you can kind of see the seams. It's not the director's fault for that, or the makers of the film. I don't think they would have ever anticipated when making the film that we'd be able to watch it this far down the line and in 2K scans. It's just never going to come across into conversation, because that sort of technology would never have been imagined back then. So it kind of looks a bit hokey in bits. It's also pretty camp. I mean, the movie itself is going for it reminds me a little bit of I, Madman, which would also be a fucking great double bill with popcorn. That way where, like, sometimes the gruesome effects don't quite match the tone. They're certainly welcome, but it kind of feels like you're being pulled in one direction and then pulled in another, and that's something that is very much at the forefront of the back of my mind when I was watching it tonight specifically. I think Popcorn is a very fun movie for sure. I think it's one that I'm glad to see make its way into this collection, because to me this feels like fitting of the term slasher classic. That makes sense to me. Whereas some of the other titles we've discussed in this collection are pure fucking head scratchers. This one is definitely a kind of, I can see what you're doing. I'm kind of glad that we've went down this road. Thank you very much, 88 Films. And also it's kind of cool to have it in this sort of print. This sort of condition. That makes me happy. So there's a lot to enjoy. There's a lot to kind of revel in here. And I think that part is the bit that gets me excited. The special features are fucking great. So tonight I have not only watched the movie, but I was watching it, because I've seen it before, I kind of switched on and off the commentary. Commentary was surprisingly fun. But the Midnight Madness and Making of Popcorn is like a 55-minute featurette, and it's fucking great. As well as the Electric Memories, the Bruce Glover interview as well. Really, 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 really good. Very informative and fun, bubbly. It sounded like it was a fucking riot to make this movie. So, this is one of these ones where I get sometimes wary pimping things from the Slasher Classic Collection, but this is one of these ones where I'm like, buy this one. You know what I mean? Don't sit around waiting it. Like, you can get it relatively cheap now, and if you're concerned even about that, if you give it a couple of months, I'm sure a company like HMV in the UK will have one of the 3 for £20 deals or whatever, and they usually have them on 88 Films, and I would pick this up certainly as one of your titles straight away. This is a good one. I mean, my grade is a 4. Like I say, a couple of things knock it down. I don't think it is at the top echelons and top tier slasher by any stretch of the imagination, but this is one of these ones where I could put Popcorn at any time on and I would enjoy it. It's a no-brainer. It is a very fun and at times surprisingly biting slasher movie, which to me shows that, I mean, Canada had a surprising, we've mentioned a few there. They didn't mention a movie like Curtains, which definitely, I don't know if 88 Films have the rights to it, but if 88 Films don't put out Curtains, then they're making a massive fucking misstep, because that should be in there for sure. So a 4 out of 5 for Popcorn. I'm going to take my final break. When I come back, I'll be telling you what we'll be covering in 3 weeks' time, and closing out the show right after this. And you've been listening to the podcast Under the Stairs. This has been your Sunday 88 Films Slasher Classic Collection, where we're looking at disc number 39, Popcorn. In 3 weeks' time, we will be doing Slasher Classics Collection disc number 40, which is the very fun Student Bodies. According to the 88 Films website, it says that as any self-respecting slasher buff will know, Paramount Pictures hit payday dirt when their all-time teen killing classic Friday the 13th from 1980 Yet, when the time came to capitalise on the same cycle that the studio had instigated, the Brain Trust opted to take a more satirical turn, and the result was Student Bodies, unleashed to cinemas in 1981. Dubbed as the world's first comedy horror film, Student Bodies won an instant and eternal fan following for its effective nods to the series of slice and dice Denzians, including Halloween from 1978, The Voorhees Mythology, and Prom Night from 1980. Long before Scream, 1996, this was the original movie that asked audiences to tick off the tributes, and with its tongue firmly placed in its cheek, Student Bodies remains a righteous viewing experience. Class is in session and everyone is invited to enjoy the latest and possibly greatest addition to the 88 Films Slasher Classic Collection. Special features are a high-definition Blu-ray 1080p presentation, DTS HDMI soundtrack, optional English subtitles, audio commentary with Justin Kershaw, author of Teenage Wastelands, the Slasher Movie Uncut, and part of the Hysteria Continues podcast team. Back to school, Kim Newman on Student Bodies, an interview with the film critic Kim Newman. Theatrical trailer and reversible sleeve. This is region locked to region B, picture format is HD 1781, audio format, like we said before, DTS HDMI, 2.0 stereo, language is English, subtitles English, certification 15, runtime 1 hour 25 minutes. That is what we'll be doing in 3 weeks' time. Very excited about this. I have not seen Student Bodies in easily over a decade. So very much looking forward to come back to this. There's a multitude of ways to check out podcasts Under the Stairs. Wherever you're checking us out right now though, hit subscribe, and that way you never miss any episodes we put out. You also get access to the entire back catalogue of Teapots content. You can jump across to our Facebook group page, facebook.com/groups/Teapotscast. For the Teapots Collective, subscribe to that feed as well. That way you get Opera Omnia, Where to Begin With, Doing the Nasty, and Chronicle. On Facebook, that's facebook.com/Teapotscast. Our website is teapotscast.com. Our merch page is teapotscast.bigcartel.com. And we're on Instagram and Twitter as well to boot. Those are our twin prongs of social media. Sexiness and myself and the Baz can be reached out and interacted with by using the @Teapots moniker on both. The podcast Under the Stairs will return for you tomorrow as we kick off a brand new box set series. Myself and Derek are looking at the movies of William Castle and the 2 Indicator box sets, starting off with our first movie, The Tingler. Check that episode out when it drops tomorrow. I hope you have a phenomenal rest of your week, however much is remaining. And until I speak to you the next time, wherever you are, whatever the time zone is and whatever you're up to in this big bad world of ours, please take care of yourselves out there. This is Duncan McLeish, broadcasting live from Under the Stairs, and I am signing off.